Welcome, everyone. The attendance tonight at the Rogers Arena, 13,506. Gate was 1.14 million. Bonuses, fight of the night was Tai Hung Bang versus Cajun Johnson. Performance of the night was Bang as well, and then Kichi Kunamoto. So who's got the first question? Well, thanks everyone for coming.
Tom, real quickly, do you have any injury updates? Or Letourneau obviously looked like she had maybe a broken eye socket there, and Brendan Schaub also looked like maybe had a broken jaw. I'm just curious if you had any updates on those two.
What I've heard, Brendan went to the hospital, as did Letourneau. Brendan has been released. He's on his way back, or he's feeling good. In terms of Letourneau, I think she's. I haven't heard any reports on her, and as for Ryan Jimmo, haven't heard any reports on him as well. But those were the three transports.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. If I can start with Andrei, please. Obviously, congratulations on your win tonight. Can you talk about how you felt about your performance? Obviously, it was a very close, kind of controversial decision there.
Honestly, I still feel like really horrible, and it's good that Dana White not here because he's probably so pissed on me. He gave me great opportunity. I didn't like my performance, my fight tonight, but for some reason I'm nervous a lot. Like, you know, before the fight, when I step inside the octagon, my legs, my hands like shook for some reason. I just nervous, like even more than first time when I fought back 14 years ago almost. But next time, I promise, gonna be much better.
I know you haven't had a chance to go back and watch the fight. Did you feel comfortable with the win? I mean, when you were standing there waiting for the judges, did you think you'd done enough?
That's why I was kind of mad, because my plan was knock him out and don't leave it up to the judges, and that's why, like I said, I wasn't happy about my performance tonight.
Thanks, Andrei. And just quickly, if I could, for Ryan, obviously a big win for you tonight. Did it play out the way you expected? Things go the way you thought it would?
Yeah, you know, you always want to get the finish, but I knew it was going to be one of those grueling fights where I had to go in there and, you know, make it an ugly fight, really. You know, Fejao is one of the hardest hitting guys in 205-pound division, and I had to be smart in there, so I was trying to establish a jab and work my takedowns in and grind him down and kind of get him to quit, and you know, I think that happened.
Yeah, and can you comment quickly on the third round? He tagged you pretty good to start out there. Were you dazed? Were you in trouble at all?
No, you know, he's very powerful, though. He moved me a little bit and kind of got off balance a few times. And, you know, I don't know if he was saving a little bit for that third round. But, you know, he felt a little heavier, you know, had good hips there. And so, you know, I had to go in there, get that takedown, and end up doing that in the end. But, yeah, he hit me with some good shots, but, you know, I was never really in danger.
And just lastly, if I could, for Demetrious, obviously congratulations, technical masterpiece there. How did you feel about your performance? I mean, obviously you're going for finishes, but when you get a shutout of somebody like that, are you happy with it, or did you feel like there were things you could have done better?
Yeah, it was a great performance. I mean, Ali Bagautinov, he's a tough guy. I hit him with a lot of shots with my knees to his face and with his temple. I mean, my knees are hurting pretty bad. So usually the shots I hit people with in the gym with those, you know, usually they fall down, but you know, the UFC does a great job of finding these top contenders. You know, he won 3 fights in a row and found him out of Dagestan, so it was a great fight.
DJ, question for you. Did Ali do anything to surprise you? I mean, I know he got you down a couple of times, which I think surprised a little bit, but obviously you bounced back up. But did he do anything that surprised you, or was it pretty much, did it go exactly the way you thought it would?
You know, when it goes back to watching video of Ali, he likes to back up a lot and draw his opponents in and then go in either for the shot. I was shocked that he was trying to slow me down a lot. So then, I just reverted to my clinch game. Obviously, you saw what happened when he tried to slow me down and just stayed trying to clinch me. You know, I'd speed up the liver. Other than that, no. We knew that he was going to try to wrestle me, slow me down, and try to get me down. But each time he took me down, I just stood right back up.
We saw it a lot in the Dodson fight. You used the Muay Thai clinch a lot. You used it a ton this fight as well. Obviously, you started out as a wrestler, but talk about your development in your Muay Thai game, because that's something you showed a lot in the Dodson fight, and you showed a lot again tonight.
Yeah, each time I fight, my last fight, I show that I have knockout power, and each time I fight, I want to show that I'm well-rounded. Like, if you want to fight me in a clinch, I'll be more happy to fight you in a clinch. If you want to wrestle, we can wrestle. If you want to do jiu-jitsu, we can do that. So I can do it all. I'm not just a one-trick pony.
And last question. I know it's kind of always hard to ask you this question tonight because you just won, but seems like John Dodson is going to be the guy. Dana said the other day that seems like the most logical matchup. What are your thoughts? I mean, rematches are tough because obviously you beat a guy, you kind of want to move on to new contenders, but how do you feel about that if that is the next guy?
Obviously it's up to the UFC. Sean Shelby and Joe Silva, they do a great job matchmaking. I mean, Ali Bagautinov, he's a guy who came out of Dagestan, Russia. He had 3 wins in a row against top contenders. So, there's a lot of challenges in this weight class that I need to fight. Dodson, I overcame him. He was a challenge, but there's plenty of guys. There's a guy in the division who has a win over me. There's Zach Markowski. So I'm just looking for new challenges.
And a question for Rory. Amazing performance tonight. It seemed like Tyron was sitting back a lot. Obviously, against the cage, you kind of had him trapped. Were you surprised that he wasn't more aggressive, or did you kind of figure your game plan was able to trap him where he was kind of stuck?
I was a little surprised how much it worked. I mean, but that was the game plan. I mean, perfect world, that's what I wanted to happen. The techniques I used, and they worked great, and the fight went perfect.
You had the fight with Jake Ellenberger, kind of similar, where the guy was sitting back, didn't do a ton of action, didn't step forward much. How much of a difference was this fight from that fight in terms of your performance? Because we saw a much more dynamic, much more dominant performance tonight, where you saw a guy kind of sitting back, very powerful guy, but you were very, very dominant, aggressive coming after him, didn't really show much fear of his power.
Yeah, I wanted to get in there. I wanted to mix it up, and I wanted to stay busy, and I wanted to close the fight. I came in really good shape, and I was looking for the finish tonight.
And I know you were very honest after the fight, saying you understand if they end up giving the title shot to Brown Lawler. But do you feel like tonight was the kind of performance Dana wanted to see out of you? Dana said tonight was maybe the biggest fight of your career in front of your hometown, obviously number 2 versus number 3. Whether you get the title shot or not, do you feel like tonight was the kind of fight you wanted to put on to prove to everybody that you do belong at the top of the division?
Yeah, I think this is probably my best performance in my career so far. I gotta watch the tape, but the feeling I have right now, I'm pretty happy with myself. Except closing the fight, I didn't get to finish, but things went well.
Another one for Rory, please. Congratulations. I mean, now this is kind of 2 fights in a row where you've had some of the best performances of your career. You said you feel great. What's kind of clicked for you in the last 6 months? What's gone right?
I'm happy. I'm happy training. I'm happy fighting and enjoying everything. I don't know. It's a lot of credit has to go to my coach, Faraz Zahabi, and the TriStar Gym, the guys there, and my coach John Chamberg. I just feel like I'm falling into a groove, and I don't know, something's clicking.
Even if it does turn out that the next title fight is the winner of Brown and Lawler, would you be comfortable keep fighting, or would you rather wait since it looks like you're kind of the next guy behind that fight?
I'm really not sure. I'm gonna just take some time now and chill out after this fight, and see what happens. Fall into place. I mean, I'm not gonna take a long break, that's for sure. But I'll be around to fight.
We're going to stick with Rory here. Rory, congratulations on the win. Must be nice to do it in front of your home crowd. Just 2 questions. First one, did you think they were going to stop the fight towards the end there? You were landing a bunch of shots. I know the clock was ticking, but were you surprised that the fight went on right to the bell?
I didn't think they were going to stop it. I was just kind of stuck, and I couldn't really see where I was hitting, but I felt like I was hitting his head, so I just kept punching. But I was kind of stuck, and he wasn't letting go, so I was trying to do as much as I possibly could without, getting swept or putting myself in a bad position.
And you outright said, you didn't come out and say that you immediately wanted the title shot. You kind of said, you're willing to wait a little bit. Is the winner of Hector Lombard and Donghyun Kim kind of the fight you think that you're going to get next?
Well, it's not that I don't want the title shot. I want it to be clear that I want that, but I respect the decision that there's 2 guys ahead of me that they've been promised it. But if that fight's a stinker, I'm ready to step in.
Question for Rory, over here to your left. You mentioned you may want to take some time off, but you don't want to take too much time off. If one of those two was to be granted that title shot, do you want to be on the same card so it keeps everything all close together? Maybe a co-main event spot? For example, if Brown or Lawler does get that title shot versus Hendricks, would you like to be on the same card as that title fight?
In July?
No. Afterwards.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's kind of hard to answer right now.
Tom, for yourself, in terms of Vancouver, the experience for the organization, are you satisfied with how everything went down in Vancouver, and would you like to make it an annual stop every year?
We're always happy when we come to Vancouver. The city speaks for itself. We've got great partners here. I think the fighters all loved it here, and Rogers Arena is a classy place to not only hold an event but to work with. So, I think it's way too early to say we would make this an annual stop. I mean, there's a laundry list of cities across this country that want the UFC, and so I mean, you heard Dana yesterday about Calgary. So, but we'll be back here, absolutely.
All right, I'll mix it up and ask Rory a question. Leading up to the fight, we talked about how at 115, how you let the home province, just that whole situation, just overwhelm you a little bit against Condit. How drastically different did it feel tonight compared to that first time around here?
Yeah, I've come a long way since then. I've gained a lot of experience in the UFC. That was only my second fight and first really big fight that I wasn't expecting. And, I grew a lot from my time since then, and it was just a regular fight tonight. It was nice being in Vancouver, though, and the response was great.
Afterwards, it seemed like you were able to, when it was business. Afterwards, it seemed like you did enjoy the moment a little bit. That would be safe to...
Yeah, I'm quite happy with how the fight went. Tyrone's a very good fighter, and I had a lot of respect going into this fight for him. I trained very hard, and I wanted this fight to be the best performance in my career.
Last one for you. You said in recent months things have really clicked. You've been happy. You've been feeling good. Would it be overthinking it? You were always having to deal with the questions about George. Title, would you fight him? Do you want to fight? When are you guys going to fight? Are you going to fight? Now that he's not the champ, and there is potentially a clearer path to the title that doesn't involve George, does that lift a bit of a burden?
Yeah, it's quite nice not having to answer that question after answering it in almost every single interview. But it's a pressure lifted, or it's a distraction that's gone. I'm right there at the top, and I think I'll be holding that belt very soon. There's no doubt in my mind.
Question for Ali. Does he have a translator?
He does.
Oh, he does. Okay, great. It's obviously very fresh, but what do you wish you could have done differently out there?
Что ты считаешь, что мог сделать иначе?
Я сделал вывод с этого боя, и я для себя сейчас знаю, над чем работать, и я с уверенностью говорю, что я вернусь, и я вернусь еще сильнее, и я по-любому заберу этот пояс. Это просто вопрос времени. Надеюсь, что Дана Уайт мне даст через пару боев еще один шанс за титул подраться.
I mean, I haven't watched the tape yet, but looking back at the fight, there is really nothing that Demetrious did in terms of there wasn't a takedown, there weren't really that many hard punches, but it was the work in the clinch, and I just want to say that it's a matter of time. that I will win this championship belt, and I just hope that in a couple of fights, Dana White will give me this opportunity.
So just to expand on that, do you feel now, even after the fight and the fact that the judges all scored it, 5-0 for him, you still feel like that was a winnable fight? Like you had your moments, you could have won that easily?
Несмотря на то, что судьи дали единогласное решение Димитриусу, ты считаешь, что ты мог все равно выиграть, и это был равный бой?
Ну, я не считаю, что единогласным решением. Я не знаю, но не единогласным точно.
Well, there's no doubt that I lost this fight, but I don't agree with the unanimous decision.
Okay, question for Ovince. Looking at the rankings and who's kind of streaking these days, what do you think of a matchup against Ryan Bader?
Think that that'd be a good matchup. So yeah, that'll be a good matchup. But yeah.
You don't sound that interested in it.
I mean, what else you want me to do? It'll be a good matchup. So.
Do you think it makes sense for you next? A top 10 guy. You haven't had that
yeah,
yet.
Most definitely. I told myself, I broke the top 15, and hopefully I'll be top 10 now. Then after that, shoot for top 5, top 2, and then the championship. So,
Just two for Tom. You alluded to Calgary, so can you give us a statement on that? Because that seems to be the mission statement from Dana. He doesn't want to hear about anything in Canada other than Calgary, it seems like, based on what he said yesterday. So when's Calgary going to get its next event?
He wants to know all sorts of things about Canada, so don't worry, Ariel. I've told a lot of people that we do our business plans. There's certain cities we want to go to and certain cities we want to go back to. I've always said what Dana has always said. We're going to go back to Calgary. We'll probably put in our plans for 2015. Those plans haven't been finalized, obviously. We got half of this year to go, so I'd love to go back to Calgary, and you can be guaranteed when we do, it'll be a great card.
And what kind of campaigning are you doing to keep that, or at least to secure that Jones-Gustafsson card in Toronto? What are the discussions? Because it seems like it's a bit of a race now between...
Campaigning? You think I'm a politician or something, Ariel?
I'm sure you want that fight to be in Toronto for the market. It seems like it's between Toronto, Vegas, and Sweden. What kind of discussions are going on right now, or
I've had those discussions all week with Dana and with Lorenzo, and we all agree it's there's certain fights that come along that will never come along again. That first rematch of arguably the fight of the year is a fight that could very well be a stadium fight, and I get that. At the same time, it's really important that we come back to Toronto. Toronto's the largest city in the country. It's the economic capital of the country. It's where most of the business decisions are made. A lot of people beat up on Toronto because they call it the center of the universe, but the fact of the matter is there's reasons why it's the biggest city. And so I'd love to see it, but it's too early to say. We'll be making a decision probably in the next week or so. But when the decision's made, you'll hear about it.
Question for Rory. A lot of fighters in your position right now would say, I'm going to wait. Especially you're 24. It's not like you're in this huge rush to get a bunch of fights in. You have some time. You could sit back and improve and get ready for a title shot. So why are you so open to taking a fight in between? Do you think it's just inevitable that that's what the UFC would want, or is it just for you want to stay active?
I like to fight, so if I wait a year for a shot, if someone gets injured or whatever, maybe even they forget about me. I like to fight, and so I'll just continue fighting if I have to wait.
And then for Ryan, congratulations on your win.
Thank you.
OSP was asked about fighting you. This was a big fight for you. You had said, this was sort of kind of define where your career would go next. Where do you think it should go? Do you have anybody in mind?
Let's do it. OSP. I don't know. It just he's been on a 4-fight win streak. Outside of Jones, the longest win streak in this division, which is tough to do. A bunch of killers in there, and fought on the same card tonight. Both got wins, and he's looked impressive. So all respect to him, but why not?
And then Demetrious, I have to ask you about this. People were talking about it on Twitter. People noticed that some of the fans were starting to fill out of the arena after the fourth round, and even a little bit before that. And it's something that we don't see a lot in the UFC. As a fighter who's in the cage while that's going on, it's your title fight. Does that bug you at all? What were your thoughts on? And you probably didn't notice, but did you? And what are your thoughts on it now that you know?
No, I didn't notice at all. I was too busy doing knees in the clinch. It doesn't bother me at all. People are freely to leave and go as they please. They're not held here in content. So I had a great fight. I think the educated fans loved it, and that's all I have to say about it.
Question for Ryan. Ryan, you obviously I know you've gone back and forth on using your wrestling really dominantly in fights, and I know it didn't. The Sheriff fight ended the way it did. How much have your last couple of fights, shown your wrestling and kind of the difference in your game planning, and obviously having Aaron as a head coach? Seems like that's changed the mentality with you, CB, and a lot of guys in your camp.
Yeah, I just think we have the right people around us. At the beginning of my career, I was mainly a wrestler. I would go out there and try to punch somebody in the face. That's all I really knew, and I had some power, and so I just really just try to do that. And now that I kind of, got the right people, the right coaches, it's been nice to actually, to learn the right techniques and footwork and feints and all that kind of stuff, which I never really dived into. And so, I wish I had it back then, but it, good sooner rather than later. And so I just feel it's all clicking right now, and I'm not just going out there and wrestling, or I'm not just going out there and striking. I'm kind of mixing them both up, and I feel that's the most effective way. With a guy like Fejao, I'll be playing right into his strengths, going out there and just banging with him. So I try to keep some distance and a jab, and then mixing it up with takedowns and feints and all that. So it worked out pretty well.
Everyone seems to be matchmaking you and OSP, not to take away from that,
Yep.
but do you have interest in the rematch with Teixeira because of the way that fight went? And it seemed like Fejao was maybe a little similar style. Obviously, they're not the exact same fighter, but is there a desire in the back of your mind to sometime get that Teixeira rematch because how close it was, and now it seems like you have made some improvements since then?
Yeah, for sure. And that was kind of part of the learning process I went in there, had him rocked. I would go in there, careless with my hands down, throwing big punches, where at the beginning of the fight, I was doing well, and sticking to what got me there. But you always want to get those fights back, and especially those close ones like that. So yeah, that definitely interests me, and I feel like I'm hitting my stride now. Really in my career, as far as I'm 31 years old, just turned 31, but I feel I'm in the best condition. I'm finally learning what I need to learning from mistakes, being patient in there and composed, and so I feel like I'm just hitting my prime and hitting my stride.
And a follow-up for DJ. DJ, you've always said, you're one fight away from not being the champion, so you have to keep a certain mindset going into it. But it seems like you are starting to relish it. In the cage, you said, I'm going to be the king, of this division. It seems like you are starting to take that. When Ali was saying getting into a rematch, kind of shook your head a little bit. He was going to have that title. Do you feel like you are starting to relish being champion and kind of taking on that role of being, let's be honest, one of the faces of the organization, one of the most dominant guys in the promotion?
Yeah, I try not to think about it, that was the question Joe Rogan asked me, and that's how I responded. But for me, I'm always focused on getting better. And, after this fight, I'm going to go home, spend time with my son and my wife, and then get back in the gym and get ready for the next one.
And one last one for Rory. I don't know how much you can hear it in the cage or not, but it seemed like of the entire crowd, you got the biggest ovation of the night. They were chanting, let's go Rory the whole night. You'll probably appreciate it more now that the fight's over, but can you hear that? Could you kind of soak that in the moment? Because, again, of the entire card, you were kind of the guy. You were Canada's guy tonight.
Yeah, I was a hometown kid, so that helps. But I heard it a few times, but I was super focused. I had to be really alert for this fight, and that was one of the factors that kind of messed me up in my fight against Condit here last time, is how intense the crowd was, and I didn't let it become a factor tonight.
Dana said, I think it was yesterday, he said, a fighter who has an entire country behind them is a big difference in terms of superstardom in this sport. It doesn't happen very often. However, for George, was your teammate, do you feel like that can happen for you? Would you want that to happen for you, to have kind of be the Mr. Canada, so to speak, to have the entire Canadian population behind you?
I want them to like me, but I don't want to be a superstar. I just like to fight, and hopefully I'll be a dominant champion and represent Canada well?
For Ovince, please. 4 straight in the UFC, 3 straight finishes, 13 of 14 after tonight. Can you talk a little bit about what's clicking for you and sort of the leaps and bounds you're growing by? We're seeing more and more dominant performances every time you're out there.
Just the people I surround myself with. My head coach, Eric Turner, one of the guys that, I've been with since day one. When I mean day one, I didn't even know how to do an arm bar or triangle. I didn't know how to throw a leg kick. He taught me all of that. My strength and conditioning coach, Andrei, just like I said, the people I've been around, and just being unorthodox. My last fight, I had a Von Fluke. This fight, I had a chicken wing. I don't think a chicken wing has been done yet in the UFC, but it's crazy. There's certain moves that I pull out in the gym all the time, or that our gym do all the time, that it's just second nature to us. But like I said, just people that I surround myself with.
Can you talk a little bit about just how much comfort you're getting? I know there have been times in the past where it's, you're not necessarily sure yourself back a few fights ago, and now you said earlier coming into this fight, you're starting to get that swagger and you're starting to get that feeling like everything's coming together. Can you just expand on that a little?
Yeah, everything pretty much coming together. It's just sometimes just going into fights, you got to stick to the game planning. And I get like today, I was honestly trying to throw the fridge, the kitchen sink, even the ice trays at him. I was like, you see me throw a couple haymakers, I had to calm down. My coach was telling me to calm down. But came out in the second round, stuck to the game plan, got him against the cage, regular wrestling, Oklahoma ride, went for the Oklahoma ride, wrist riding position, then, a chicken wing position. But it's just, I'm just pretty much coming into my zone. I'm feeling more and more relaxed, which is good. I still would like to open up a little more. I feel like I can open up a little more. It's hard to open up sometimes when you got to stick to the game plan.
Andrei, just right in front of you. How you touched on it a little bit in the cage, but how much did you enjoy your return back to UFC, and how emotional was it being back?
It was awesome, and like I mentioned in the first question, I nervous a lot. I never nervous like this, not even like when I had first fight in a UFC, and when I start fighting, crowd was great. Great. I think I'm a happy fighter, a happy man. My fans, they support me a lot, and I really appreciate for the support. That means a lot to me. It's motivate me, train even harder, and definitely next fight I will do everything possible to perform much better.
During fight week, the days leading up to it, were the nerves? I don't know, maybe nerves, but butterflies. Whatever. Did it feel? Did it feel different than previous fights?
Not week before, but definitely 2 days before the fight. Yeah, nervous a lot, and during the fight, I couldn't throw any combination when I practice like here. I lost, I think, a lot in my speed and my movement, and this is good that he didn't knock me out, because pretty much I saw all his punches except right uppercut, but I think I did okay. I'm not happy, definitely, but it was fine.
When was the last time you were as anxious as you were coming into this fight? And when was the last fight that you kind of felt the same nerves, anxiety as you did?
Like I said, my first fight, my first debut in the UFC, almost 14 years ago. I nervous a lot, and actually, yeah, first fight.
Thanks, Andrei.
Thank you.
Yeah, follow-up question, Andrei, to that. Now that you're here, you got great fan support. People like to see you back in the UFC. Not looking too far ahead, but is this the organization that you feel you want to retire in when it's all said and done?
Time will show, but definitely I need fight, training and harder, and show in the future good fights, very excited fights, and I still young, 35. It's prime for heavyweights. I think I have a few years for good performance, and at age 35, I train even more than I trained when I was a heavyweight champion in the UFC back a few years ago, and I still have fire in my eyes. I'm just ready to go. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take one more question.
For Demetrious, please. Demetrious, I know ultimately you're going to fight whoever the UFC puts in front of you, but you've gone out of your way to kind of mention some other names, some other options other than John Dodson. Can I read into that you don't think that's an opportunity he deserves right now, or that's not a fight that you think makes the most sense at this point? Are you trying to avoid that fight and then take somebody else instead?
No, not at all. I'm not trying to avoid that fight. Obviously, it's up to the UFC to make that decision. The reason why I say that is that there's this division is rich of great athletes and great fighters. And I'm just letting you guys know that Dodson isn't the only person in this division. There's tons of people in this division, and a lot of people forget about that. And I'm just trying to remind you guys that, you know, Ali Bagautinov, nobody never heard of him, and he took a lot of shots from me today, and he won 3 fights in a row. He didn't run his mouth to get here. He went out there and he beat everybody that the UFC put in front of him. So I respect him for that. My hat's off to him for that. So there's a lot of guys in this division. It's a rich, full, talented division that these guys present challenges to me, and tonight I faced a new challenge and I overcame it, and I'm ready to do it again next time I fight.
Great. Thanks very much, everybody, for coming, and happy Father's Day tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, happy Father's Day. Forgot about that.
Yeah, happy Father's Day, man.